Hi everybody, welcome back to my garden. So today I'm going to be talking about what happens when you get leggy tomatoes. Look at this tomato. It's ridiculous. Yeah, so this year this happened. This has been a challenging garden season so far. Since I moved, I no longer have a system in place that for growing seedlings that works as well as my old one. The result of all of this, leggy tomato plants. I can't remember a year when my tomato plants have looked like this. Normally my plants are tall, but this is to another level of ridiculousness here. Here's what I think has happened. I'm going to give you 5 reasons as to why I think I have leggy tomato plants this year. First one, I think I planted my seeds too early. I've always planted my pepper and tomato seeds on March 15th, and they've always been fine. But this year, something just went wrong. Second, my light setup was inadequate, which relates to the first thing. Because I had them under the wrong lights for so long, they got them really leggy. Now, I normally grow under shop lights. They're more than enough lumens for what you need. And this year, a couple of my shop lights were missing bulbs and all that stuff that happens. And I live 45 minutes away from any Home Depot or anything. So I ended up using these purple lights, the blue and red spectrum lights, and they just weren't good enough. I think that they just don't give the plants the proper light. Third, I'm growing over 20 varieties of tomatoes. So overcrowding was a big problem. So if you have all your plants jammed together in these flats, they're going to be competing for light. And I think that was a problem too. With the bad light, with the seeding too early, and with them all crowding, I think that all added up to a bad spot. Number 4, cool, dreary weather along with a new greenhouse setup. Once my plants got so leggy they no longer fit in my little grow room setup, I brought them out to the greenhouse, and we've had a very cold spring. I brought them out in the greenhouse and I put them on heat mats, but still the ambient temperature in the greenhouse during the night was very cold. And it didn't get below freezing, but it got pretty cold. It got below 40 degrees. So they were not happy plants. So I think this contributed as well. And the 5th reason, over or under watering. Now I expected once I brought my plants into the greenhouse that they would get plenty of light. But they were very, very thirsty, especially as they got bigger. Like when you get to this size, he'll dry out that little tiny pot there, in half a day. You got to remember, full-size tomato plants will drink up to a half a gallon of water a day. That is a lot of water. So they probably did not get enough water. And then when I did come through and water, they probably got too much, and it was just the inconsistency that changed everything. But fear not, because tomatoes are basically like weeds, and so they'll grow just about anywhere. So we're going to be able to fix this. So the first thing you can do is pot up into a bigger pot. Now, when I transplant my tomatoes for the first time, I put them in this type of a pot. It's a 6-inch by 3.5-inch pot. And this works pretty well for the longest time. But when they get to this size, it doesn't work that well. So I've taken a few of them that were really starting to get leggy. This is about a month ago. And I put them in bigger pots. They're taller and they've got more space for the roots to grow. Now, the problem with this is they take up more space. And if you're already limited in space, this might be a problem. But I see a lot of gardeners do this, is they just keep potting up and potting up and potting up to try to keep up with the plant and make sure it doesn't get too leggy. This one's not too bad. It's still a little leggy, but it'll be just fine once it's in the ground. The other thing you can do is cut off the top, stick it in some very well moistened dirt and let it grow a new plant, or clone this plant. The other thing, this one doesn't have any, but if your plant has suckers, I've got a few that have suckers on them already, you can take those suckers, break them off, put them in dirt, and they will make a new plant. Depending on when you do this, this will clearly delay planting and definitely delay harvesting, because this plant, which is not only that tall, has to grow all these roots that it doesn't have. So you can't just go put that out in the ground right away. You have to kind of babysit it for a while. Once it fills up, say a pot of this size, and you've got some roots coming through the soil that you can see, especially down here at the bottom, then you know you can put it outside. The other thing you can do is you can plant this plant horizontally instead of vertically. Now this one already turns up at the end. So I would plant this plant like this. And you take off all these stems that are going to be under the ground, and roots will grow all along the stem. And so in the end, you have a stronger, healthier plant by doing it this way than if you were just to leave them. You can also leave them as is. You can take this plant, put it in the ground, you know, maybe bury it to here, and it'll be fine. It really will. You're gonna have to use some kind of support system. You have to do that with most tomatoes anyway. So you'll have to use some kind of support system. It might get a little taller. If it's an indeterminate tomato plant, then they just keep growing. So if it's already 3 feet tall, it'll be 8 feet tall by the time the season's over. Next year, I'll fix my grow room problems. But for this year, I'm going to use the trench method, which is what planting horizontally is. And I'm not going to use it for all my tomatoes, just for the really long ones. And it's surprising what looks really leggy in your greenhouse or wherever you keep your plants. Once you get them outside, they don't look quite so bad. But just in case you decide to go with the trench method, let me show you how to do that. Okay, the first thing you want to do is select a healthy plant. This one is pretty healthy. This is called Bountilicious. And then you want to prune off all of these branches. Let me do that. So we're just going to prune off, let's do this over here. All of these. And you can just break these off, but I would rather not take the chance that I'm going to rip them. And then let's test. I dug a trench. This is about, it's 6 inches deep maybe. So let's test that. So I'm gonna go up to here. Here, 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 here. Okay, this plant actually has 2 leaders, right? I'm gonna cut this down to 1, like that. And then I'm gonna lay it in here. Okay, this root ball is really dry, so I'm gonna dip it in some water. Just to try to get a little water in there. Then I'm gonna lay this in here. I think what I'm gonna do is this. Kind of go like that. So I can put a bunch of this dirt back in. The leaves out of there. Just kind of set it like that. When I get the stem kind of covered up, but it's not too deep, I want to put some slow release fertilizer in there and then finish covering it up. stay. So I'm gonna need a stake for that one, just to kind of keep it up for a few days while it retrains itself. There. And that's it. So all along this stem here, there will be roots growing, and this plant will be just fine. So then you want to give it a good drink of water too. So that's it. That's how you turn a leggy tomato plant into a powerhouse producer. So if you have any questions on this, don't forget to leave them down in the comment section below. And let me know which method you prefer for your leggy tomato plants. All right, I will see you soon, everybody. Happy gardening. Bye-bye.